Evans, and welcome to the show.
The Tommy DeVito story is fun, and it's so Jersey. But I'm just waiting for like the other shoe to drop because we've seen that happen so many times. Are you enraptured in the Tommy DeVito story?
Look, I'm enraptured by the story. I mean, really, this is sort of like the New Jersey version of Rudy, right?
Yes,
You know, the kid wasn't even like a great college quarterback, but right place, right time. I mean, everything that can go wrong did go wrong for the Giants, and he's seizing the moment. And the more I hear about the kid is they really like him in that locker room. But what clinched it for me was, did you see the attire that his agent was wearing the other day?
How great was that outfit?
Yes.
Looked like he went to the Sopranos set and took something off Stevie Van Zandt, didn't it?
Yes.
Right. Now, there is no way that guy has to go through a metal detector. No way.
The time. Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
Very pleasant. Good morning, everybody. Great to be with you on this fine Thursday. Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubitz, the Defo Show, and we're going to feature in just a few minutes here John Congemi with the Pigskin Playbook, a little juxtaposition, a little change of pace, as we usually have John on Mondays, but of course, Monday was New Year's Day, so we were off for the holiday. Actually, a nice busman's holiday, as we took off Tuesday as well. So after returning yesterday, we wanted to make sure we got John in there, and a huge weekend of football coming up, including the national championship game on Monday. And then this is going to be something. Can they throw enough obstacles at a gambler, Lubie? I mean, you already have to deal with like many things that are just inherent in the whole adventure of gambling. Number one, that if it wasn't for bad luck, you wouldn't have any luck at all. That you're a loser. Right? We often say that the best thing that you should do before you analyze the card for the NFL weekend or college football, or maybe you're betting basketball, maybe you're betting women's water polo. Jim Sarney asked me if I had a bet on the women's water polo game last night, USA versus Costa Rica, or whatever that was. It might have been, I don't even know. I think it was Croatia they were playing, my favorite team, Croatia, the Croats. Not very good on the women's side. I think the men got smoked. Anyway, I parlayed the men to the women and somehow ended up a loser. Because you should just wake up every day and look in the mirror. Lubie, I want you to do this. Follow along with me. Look in the mirror and say, I'm a loser. And that's not what I appear to be, right? The old Beatles song. All right, so you have enough obstacles facing you. You have your own inherent bad luck. You have, all kinds of different things, crazy things that can happen during the course of the game, including things that are established by officials. Steward's inquiry, two of the most damaging words that you could ever hear. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a steward's inquiry into today's. I'm still sick. I can see Argentine Tango streaking down the stretch on the outside, not menacing a single horse, almost racing in the grandstand. It was more likely that this horse would have fouled a fan than some of the other horses in the field. And then number starts blinking. Bingo. Somehow you get ruined. Get out money, it goes up in smoke, and you're feeling like a fool all over again. And then you should never gamble in anger. Never gamble in anger. We talk about this all the time. When you think that you just got shafted, I can't believe this guy yanked that horse. Or you're thinking somebody, got the old Tim Donaghy treatment. Don't come back firing even heavier because it's only going to exacerbate the situation. We know this. And then you might run into a kiss of death, a known kiss of death on your way to the track or on your way to the windows. You're in the sports book, and that guy comes over and says, hey, Defo, can you squeeze me a 20? And it's like, I just made a 16 parlay that I think has every chance of winning, and now I got to run into you. You're a kiss of fucking death.
Yeah.
It happens, right? But the NFL, they couldn't have created more chaos than they have this upcoming weekend, Lubie, in terms of gambling on games. Did you look at the number of quarterbacks that are going to be sitting out?
Yes,
in one game, the 49ers and the Rams, two teams that are both headed for the playoffs, the 49ers, they can't change positions, and the Rams are locked into their playoff position. So they're sitting everybody, both teams. And yet there's a line on the game. Somebody's going to go out there. This is worse than the opt-out. I guess in college football, you don't really have that much familiarity with the players to begin with because they're only there for a short period of time. Whereas you'll see, what Travis Kelce can do as a player. He may be fading a little bit this year, but you've seen him, man. You've seen the guy in the league for like 7-8 years. You know what the team looks like with him in there and what it looks like when he's not in there. It's not necessarily always the case with the colleges because you have no idea who these backups are. And whether or not, it could turn out that the coach was just sitting on a good thing all of that time. But how do you have lines in these games? I'm looking at what is the line on the Rams games? Yeah, the Steelers also are playing the Ravens, who are sitting everybody. They're only favored by 3.5. How is that possible, Obi? How do you make adjustments for this? You have are the Colts also locked in? Are they playing a backup quarterback? I'm not sure about that. No, I think their position might fluctuate depending on what happens over the weekend.
Chance to win their division. I mean, they're still up in the air.
The 49ers are 4-point favorites over the Rams, even though both teams are sitting everybody.
Yeah,
Both quarterbacks are going to be out in that ball game. Stafford is sitting for the Rams, and Brock Purdy is not going to play. And I would imagine a few others of any significance are going to see any real playing time. So almost impossible. How many more obstacles can they throw at you? Can they make it any more difficult? This covers how many games? It's like a zillion games. You have the Ravens are obviously not going to play anybody. They're locked in there at the position. I believe Kansas City, yes, is also locked into its position. Who backs up Patrick Mahomes? Do you have any idea?
but I mean, I don't think Kansas City is, because Kansas City's
No, they're locked into their spot.
Can't they? So can't they be the 2 seed?
I don't believe so. No, they're locked in at number 3.
They're only a game behind the Dolphins, and they beat the Dolphins head to head. I don't think they're locked in. How could they be locked in?
They are locked in. Patrick Mahomes will sit out the Chiefs' regular season finale
Well,
against the Chargers on Sunday in Los Angeles with their 8th straight AFC West title and secured the number 3 seed in the playoffs, already, Lubie, locked up.
So is it the Bills? Is that what it is? Because the Bills beat the Chiefs?
The Bills could fluctuate, yeah.
It'd be the 2. I guess that's what it is. Whoever wins.
In fact, the loser of the Miami Bills game is going to play the Chiefs on the road in the first game of the playoffs.
That's what it is. The Bills, if the Dolphins win, they're the 2. If the Bills win, they're the 2. Because they have the same record. They would have the same record as the Chiefs, and they beat the Chiefs head to head. Okay, that makes sense.
Unbelievable, yeah. Mike Mayo alludes to the fact that both of us are on injured reserve here, Lubie. You with an hellacious head cold of
I'm
some
just
sort.
annoyed. I feel okay. It's just like my cat sucks, and that's the one thing. Like, I don't get sick every.
How do you mean that? You want to clarify that?
She wakes me. Well, I've talked about it on the show. She wakes me at 5 o'clock in the morning every day. Like, and she's not a dog. Like, she's a cat, but she has this thing about yearning to go outside at 5 in the morning, and no matter what we do, she won't shut the fuck up. So, and that's the only reason I get sick. Like, I don't even need 8 hours, but I got used to. I need at least 5 to 6. The hours we ran, I need at least 5 to 6 hours of sleep. The problem is, over the holidays, I was going to bed later, but still waking up at 5 every fucking morning, and I knew I was going to get sick. I knew it. I'm like, it's going to come, and here it is. Shirley's super sick. Like, Shirley.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wow.
What's wrong with her? But,
sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I know. So I'm okay. It's just annoying. I hate the sniffles. The sniffles are like the most annoying thing to me. Like, it just lingers and it's just there.
No, you can hear it pretty clearly because we got to jack those mics up on the Tony Bruno radio show.
Yeah. Oh, you
were like snorting in the background. In fact, I should have realized that you waltzed off to the kitchen there in the middle of me saying, "Hey, Lubie, what do you think about that?" Because I didn't hear you sniffling into the microphone. I get my first of a series, just a wild series of doctor appointments today. So, hopefully that'll solve the problem that I can't figure out, and that is this business with my feet, which both of which are on the fritz, and that's not a good thing, right? Remember what was that Midnight Express, where the wicked guard, the warden there, would just whack the people on the feet with a baseball bat? Not good, not good at all. And then the knee, I think it's just the traditional. It's going to need some kind of juice. It's Jose Canseco time on that. So that'll get taken care of on Friday. But in the meantime, pure torture. Sitting down is about the only thing that's enjoyable. And it's been a rough 10-day period. Here's a guy that just plowed through any injury. That that a quarterback can't go through his entire career without playing hurt at some point in time, going all the way back to high school. And how did you retain these good looks, John Congemi? It's amazing. How are you, my friend?
It's called? It's a horse ointment called DMSO that I put on my body as a young kid, right? So anytime I had an ankle injury, knee, whatever it was, we had an assistant coach in high school at St. Thomas that dealt with horses. So he brought this stuff. Now I'm waiting to grow like a third arm or a third, eye or ear or whatever it's going to be soon, but at that time it worked. It took the swelling out and it was able to kind of keep you on the field.
You know what? It's funny because I was just dealing with a guy who runs some company that I've had some kind of mild association with, and he was telling me that he had this pain cream that was developed by one of their chemists, And the main ingredient was DMSO. That it works like a charm.
Yeah.
Now, if we find out later on that it also establishes a certain part of your anatomy to be the same size as a horse as well.
We're in luck. We're all in luck.
Cash in my stock almost immediately after it rises to like $1 zillion. That's going to be great.
Get out of the way. Jeff's coming to the ball game today.
Exactly.
He's carrying a big stick, this guy. We were just talking about this a little bit. It's kind of interesting. And, and it boils down to this now for the Miami Dolphins, John Congemi. And it's a Pigskin Playbook brought to you by Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill. And that's mile marker 104 in Key Largo. And I had the backup full and operating, I would imagine, by now.
We're ready to go. Okay. Absolutely. All systems go.
Need a little break once I get over all of this other crap. And Lubie is, well, again, we're shooting right down there to the Keys to go down there and have a good time at Jimmy Johnson's. And we'll bring Mike Mayo and have him sample the Italian fisherman pizza. I hope it's still on the menu.
Well, it's always there. If Dominic's there, it's there. So we're
stone crabs on that thing too. Is there a stone crab claw on there?
I'm not gonna say. I don't want to get Mike's hopes up.
You throw a stone crab on there, and Mayo's going to give it a top, 4-star rating. I believe that's his highest rating. All right. So this weekend, you have the Dolphins obviously playing the Buffalo Bills for the division title, and positioning in the playoffs. Very favorable positioning if they win the title. I believe they would take on Indianapolis.
Yeah,
at home, and if they lose, they go on the road to face Kansas City, and that's the way it goes for either team. I think. I'm not sure that the Colts are a lock to be in that spot, but I know that KC's locked in at number 3. The loser of this game goes on the road and faces the Chiefs. So a lot at stake here. But where do we stand coming out of that last disaster, John Congemi? I know you've probably analyzed that thing to death, but there wasn't much to say after we got past the midway point of the second quarter.
Well, the MASH unit is really where the Miami Dolphins are at right now in terms of depth, in terms of starters. Going back to the game, I thought it was a pretty good start to the football game. I thought the Dolphins were doing well, guys. And not that the Tyreek drop in the end zone was going to deflate them, but that was a given. That was like a gimme. Even Tyreek said, in Hard Knocks, I missed a layup. And he did. He missed a layup. That was the equivalent in his head what he thought. And I don't know if it had an effect on the rest of the game, but it got you in a position of chasing.
Yep.
Okay. It got you in a position of now we can't really match score for score because we're still going to be behind.
Yep.
And Baltimore took advantage of that with, a one-handed interception that leads to a one-handed 4th down conversion touchdown that rolled into the third quarter kickoff return of 76 yards. And all of a sudden, now you're really behind.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, not that made the Dolphins fragile, because just a short year ago, they, came back from a 21-point deficit in the fourth quarter, slapped the Baltimore Ravens around and shook their franchise a little bit. I didn't have that same feeling like that could happen again. I don't know why. Maybe it was Lamar Jackson's dominance. Maybe it was their defense. Maybe it was a combination of who I was looking at finally on the line of scrimmage for the Dolphins going, are they really going to hold up? It was difficult. You're missing your starting corner. You get your safety back in his first game back in a lot of weeks, and he kind of mismanages some things in the back.
They didn't look good.
So it was, and as a fan and as a quarterback watching Tua all year, I'm just thinking, when is it time where one of those anticipated blind throws down the middle is just going to, turn around and go the other way, because he can't hit all of them.
Yeah.
It's not like, he's a 3-point shooter and he's 100%. He's going to miss some. And you just hope the misses fall on the ground instead of the other color jersey. Well, in this game, a couple of them went the other way, and that might have made the difference in the end.
Yeah, it was ugly. I mean, it got out of control. And so the Ravens rolled over the Dolphins, left the Dolphins back in the question mark in the Mysterians category that they were in after the Tennessee loss. That loss really rears its ugly head.
Oh, my gosh. As a fan, you're kind of going, well, maybe it's not going to hurt them.
Yeah.
But you were kind of blind or oblivious to the reality of just lost to a really bad team in the last 4 minutes of a game where it was stone cold yours to take.
Right, and you're sitting there, you would be already locked up the division. You wouldn't have to worry about going on the road, and you could rest everybody in this Bills game. And
and the Bills fans could have saved a lot of money. They would have waited till next week to spend their money.
How about Tony Segreto, man? He just calls the Dolphins and says, "Hey, I need 4 tickets for the biggest game that we've had down here in like the last 15 years or so." And yeah, sure, no problem, Tony. Where would you like to sit, on the sun side or the other side?
That's great.
It's great. But I mean, all right. So what do you think? I mean, are you feeling it? You're down there amongst the real fans. You're outside the stadium and you're in the ballpark, and you've been there all season long for these home games. And for the most part, they've been victorious games, although a disaster against Tennessee. And a lot of the fans probably are already in their cars thinking that this game was in the bag. I'll go home, get some sleep, go to work tomorrow, and brag about how good my team is. What are you sensing? Is there this, big wave of excitement for this ball game coming up in town?
Well, I think there is a ton of excitement, and I think it's 50-50. I think it's equally shared between the Dolphins and the Bills. I wouldn't be surprised if the Bills take over 40 or 50% of the stadium on Sunday night, because just reading all the stuff that's on your laptop or on your phone, and you're kind of punching up the game. There's a ton of Bills fans heading to South Florida for this game. So it's going to make it interesting in terms of the atmosphere, number one. And number two, if you had to say, who would you take in a big stakes, big time, one win game, kind of to get you to win not only the division crown, but to set the momentum in a positive light going forward in the playoffs? Would you take Josh Allen and Diggs and those guys and McDermott and the Bills, or would you take Tua and Tyreek and McDaniel or the Dolphins? I'd say it's probably down the middle, maybe leaning towards Buffalo, because they've been in that spotlight game a lot more than the Dolphins have.
They've been beating crummy teams, though, and barely scraping by. I mean, the Patriots game was somewhat underwhelming of a performance. They did manage to, hang on and win that game, but I think it was like a one-score differential, 6 points or something like that. Previous week, Lubie keeps screaming about this game, and he's right. I mean, without Justin Herbert, the underachieving Chargers, who have been pathetic all year long, I mean, to the point where their coach is fired in mid-season, they were life and death to beat them. The previous week, I believe that was. I think that was 2 weeks in a row. They really staggered against weak teams. So I don't know. I mean, are they so outstanding that we, we'll go along with the odds makers who say at home the Dolphins are 3-point dogs to this team?
Great.
Yeah, I would kind of be all over the Dolphins at this point. The way they've played at home, minus the last 4 minutes of the Tennessee game, you're going to need at least 34, 31 points to win this game, because that's just the way sometimes it goes at home for the Dolphins. They score a lot of points, other than, the Tennessee back and forth kind of, tussle and the 5 field goals against a really good Cowboys team. It just sets up for Josh Allen. Is he going to carry this team on his shoulders? Is he going to be able to continue to average around 55 to 60 yards of ground on the ground every time he plays the Miami Dolphins? Without Jerome Baker in the middle kind of patrolling. Duke Riley's a good linebacker, but as we've seen over the last couple of weeks, we kind of miss Jerome Baker, and you wouldn't have said that unless he's out of the lineup. Kind of Jerome gets a bad rap. Well, all he does is make tackles every week. So now you could be down X. You're probably down. You're probably the same way on the offensive line. Do you get Jalen Waddle back? That's what the Dolphins are hoping for, because it gives you the advantage of pressing the issue and taking some pressure off Tyreek Hill and the rest of the. Do you get Mostert back? Probably, but it didn't really matter against Baltimore because Achan did a phenomenal job.
Yeah,
I thought he played terrific, but with Waddle out of the game, you end up throwing a fade route to a tight end and a pass to Claypool that probably hasn't happened in a number of weeks. Those guys just don't get that many targets. So with Waddle in, you kind of balance out the opposing defense and you make it a little bit easier or cleaner to call plays for Tua.
I'll just ask you bluntly, what the hell was Mike McDaniel thinking having Bradley Chubb and Tua Tagovailoa in the game down 30?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's always the huge second guess. I was having this conversation with Jeff Darlington the other day, and we were like, it's not like college football where you have 80 guys on the sidelines and you can just throw in the whole, second unit on defense, but there are certain guys that you'd probably want to take out. And my question back to you, Lubie, is how many times in an NFL game are you going, why is the starting quarterback still in the game? And it's a 20-some point game, fourth quarter, and Justin Herbert's still in the game. And I'm going, why is this guy still in the game? It doesn't matter anymore. He gets all the reps during the week.
Yeah.
He gets all the reps during the game. And now this is a meaningless fourth quarter, and you still have your starter in to run the football, or to throw that one pass or that one play action play where if one guy busts and he doesn't react to it to throw it away or get out of the way, you're putting yourself, your whole future of your season in danger. So yeah, there's a lot of things like that happen.
Those two guys of all people, like. People don't like the term injury prone. I'm sorry. Bradley Chubb's injury prone. Tua, until this season, was injury prone. Magically, they both have made it. They both are playing really well. Pro Bowl caliber players. Bradley Chubb's actually a defensive player of the year candidate. They're not giving him that credit, but he has better numbers than Myles Garrett. He's just on the Dolphins, and no one likes giving the Dolphins any credit. Tua should be the MVP candidate right behind Lamar Jackson, but both have had careers filled with injuries. You're this close to the playoffs. You're this close to a home game where you need both of those guys. You already had Phillips get hurt in a game where you were leading a blowout. And I get it. He's a young guy, but he does this a lot. And that's, again, we've talked about this. This is my problem with Mike McDaniel is he's learning on the job with the Super Bowl contender. And most guys, and I get it, Belichick used to do that where he would keep Brady in and they were up 30. But he's a pompous ass and he just did whatever.
But that was stupid as well.
It was dumb. It was stupid. That's what I'm saying. Like, why? You don't have to be the smartest guy in the room all the time. Like, sometimes you can just say, you know what? You're not coming back from 30 down. They weren't coming back. Like, you could feel that the momentum, it just wasn't there. Like, why risk it? And I understand Johnson had the mentality. Guys can get hurt at any time. Okay, let him get hurt in a close game. I'd rather him get hurt in a close game than when there's no shot of you coming back.
Well, he almost went 2 for 2 because Tua ended up almost extending his left arm out and, hyperextending something or even worse. He goes to the sideline, says he's okay, but then he goes to the bench and, you see the training staff around him. So that was almost a really, really devastating loss. Not so much 56-19 doesn't sting, but then you lose your, starting rush end opposite, a guy that's already gone, and you could have lost your starting quarterback at the end there too. So yeah, all your points are valid, and I always wondered why in the fourth quarter of certain games where you're up 3 scores, why are, not that Teron Armstead plays a whole lot. He's probably played 8 games this year, and he made a Pro Bowl. Go figure. Yeah. But I don't know why guys like that, you pull a guy like that out of the game.
Yes.
Wait for next week because you are living in a glass house. We want you fresh next week, not for the fourth quarter of this game.
Along those lines, I think maybe this sort of thought and headline summarizes the complexity of trying to figure out anything in this season of the NFL. And that is that the Browns announced that they are sitting Joe Flacco for the last game of the regular season. Now, if you said that to anybody at the beginning of the year, hey, listen, you know what? The Browns heading for the playoffs, going to have everything wrapped up before the final game of the season, whatever their position is. They're going to sign Joe Flacco out of retirement.
And then sit him.
Because he's so valuable that they don't want him to go out there and risk getting hurt. I mean, that's incredible. I was just reading some handicapper talking about how the Browns at 35-1 are a possible, a considered play for Super Bowl championship type of distinction. I don't know about that.
I don't know. I'm not going.
I keep
that
looking at them
bridge
saying
too
that's a
far for
miracle
me.
that this is happening, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
they have a good defense, and Flacco's sparked them, I guess, offensively. But it's still it's a 90-year-old Joe Flacco.
Yes.
Yeah,
This is one of those stories like we see all the time.
12 soon, right?
Yep.
Tommy DeVito. I mean, he was on the jars of Rayo's tomato sauce, spaghetti sauce, and now he's on a milk carton. Where the fuck is this guy?
Right.
So, I don't know if that's going to persist. Yeah.
The glory is kind of fleeting at certain positions, and you're right. The Browns, you have never thought that they'd be in this position in that division, but it's a strange year. It really is a strange year that you could have conversation about certain teams being where they are. Look at Kansas City. Would you ever think Kansas City would have been, scratching and clawing just to get into the playoffs and be on such a roller coaster ride offensively as they have been all season with arguably the best quarterback in the National Football League? It's difficult to fathom. Yet, if the Dolphins somehow ended up in Kansas City for the wild card game, who would you go to the window with? The ticket on Mahomes in the playoffs or Tua?
Here's one of the big problems. I mean, the Dolphins. I didn't realize they lost that game in Buffalo by 28 points.
Yeah, they got annihilated.
Yeah, they got annihilated there. They got annihilated against the Ravens.
Eagles.
The Eagles. Who aren't much. I mean, look at the Eagles now getting beaten by the Arizona Cardinals, on their home turf when in a position to continue to fight for the number one seed in the NFC, which would make a big differential also with the bye week and all of that, and the home field advantage through the playoffs. I mean, it's hard to rate the Dolphins' chances in these games because they're like my old MG. Where you'd fire it up, and one day you're driving around Southern California thinking I'm the king of the world, and then you get in the car for the ride back, and it won't start. You turn the lights on, and the engine blows up. It's been crazy because they look so good sometimes, but that hasn't been the case in these kind of games.
That's the tease with the Dolphins on offense and on defense. Really, I mean, sometimes they look so good that you feel so confident, like. This team now has reached a level of expectation and a level that they're going to stay at, and they're going to consistently play that way when you see them on Sunday. And then all of a sudden you see that game against Baltimore, and you kind of look at the way the game went, and it should be 14-7 Miami instead of 10-7 Miami. And then all of a sudden Baltimore kind of flipped the switch. They went on a 10-play drive, which they had 7 runs. They go 89 yards and they take the lead for good. And and then all of a sudden the wheel started shifting a little bit, right?
Yeah.
That's the same way their season has gone. They week after week, bang, they score 40, then they score 70, then they score whatever. And all of a sudden you're going, man, this team's going to be electric. Then they play a team with a winning record, they get beat. Then they play another team with a winning record, they get beat. They finally throw that away and beat Dallas at home, kicking 5 field goals. I don't care how you win. You beat a good team at home. Great. Right?
Sure.
Then you're feeling like, okay, this is the biggest game of the year. They're going to at least go toe-to-toe with this team.
I'd rather be in it, yeah.
Right? And just get it to the fourth quarter, and we're going to be able to make a play to win. And, the fourth quarter comes, and like we were all talking about, those guys shouldn't even been in the game.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
So now it comes down to one game, and anything can happen. I mean, anything can happen. I wouldn't put it by either one of these teams. They come in, they play into the fourth quarter, and it's a field goal game, right? Whoever has the ball last is going to win. Or one of these teams blows out the other one. Yeah. I wouldn't put it by that either, because both of these teams are so heckle and jive. It's like I don't trust Buffalo either.
No,
I mean, I couldn't. If I was a Buffalo fan,
haven't been overwhelming. That's for sure.
I wouldn't come in beating my chest, going like, "Oh, we got Josh Allen, we got Stephon Diggs, we got this defense. We're going to stuff Miami." I wouldn't feel that way. I'd be like crossing my fingers, going, well, if everything falls right, we might be able to, depend on those guys at the end of the game. But I wouldn't feel that way wearing either team's colors.
No, I mean, it's not like they're bringing Bruce Smith and company into a town here that, you're thinking, geez, we don't match up well with these guys. Yeah, so it should be a lot of fun. I mean, interesting to see what's at stake. And it goes back. You just don't want to lose that. It's the old FSU thing. Lubie can relate to this very well, where the Seminoles would lose that game to North Carolina State. That everybody's like, what? Oh, well, they lost to North Carolina State. And then at the end of the year, it comes back to haunt you as you're left out of.
The only thing I would say,
remind them about what happened in the championship, I think, this year. But yeah, go ahead.
No, the only thing I would say is I think Buffalo is coming in head and shoulders healthier than the Miami Dolphins in this game.
Yeah.
When you look at the injury report and you look at who's on it, you look at certain positions, I will say that there's probably a reason it's a 3-point spread that way. And I think it's because Buffalo is much healthier than the Dolphins are at this point.
Yeah, and I guess, the rep sticks with you, though, too. I mean, it seems like, are you trying to entice people to take Miami? You would think yes. Normally, you're given 3 points for having the home field. So You're talking about that they
6
are rating the Bills right now as a almost touchdown favorite over the Miami Dolphins playing in their home park, which that is not saying much about what would think people think about Miami at this point in time after watching them just fall in their face in these type of situations. All right, I want to get into what's happening with the national championship game and your thoughts on the college football playoffs. We've discussed what Lubie and I have dubbed the fucking many times, so I don't know that we need to dive into too much of that. The games themselves were very compelling. I mean, if you didn't know anything about the politics, it's like the old thing. Other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the play? It was very entertaining football, no doubt about it. And seeing Nick go down certainly was of great pleasure for us, even if it was to the lesser of two evils, as a lot of people are looking at it. The cheating Michigan Wolverines.
Well,
go ahead.
How about when you look at the sidelines and you see a shot of Nick Saban and you're going, oh gosh, I hope Michigan wins. And then you see a shot of the Michigan sideline and you see Jim Harbaugh and you go, I don't know, maybe I want Alabama to win.
It was tough.
I could never find myself rooting for Alabama. We were talking about that yesterday, the number of ways and the reasons we despise Nick Saban. And it all boils down to that secretary who told him he had a nice haircut that he had fired right on the spot there. He had some guy named O'Brien. We were talking with Dave Hyatt about it on our radio show yesterday, where he literally had a henchman following him around. And, somebody would say, hello, hey, coach, how you doing? And he would tell the guy, hey, make sure that person's not here when I come back down the hallway.
Yeah.
And the guy would fire the person on the spot. I've been working for the Dolphins for like 35 years. And I don't know why Huizinga, who, seemed to be, I don't know how many people he trampled on his way to becoming a billionaire, but he seemed to be a man of some kind of humanity and compassion later on in life. Anyway, at least it appeared that way. I don't know. Were you close at all with Huizinga? Or did you have a lot of dealings with him?
I got to be around Mr. Huizinga a lot, and he was awesome every time I was around him. But I've also heard a story about Saban walking down the hallway where Lindo Mari was walking down the other way, and he had somebody tell Lindo not to look him in the eye when he's walking down the hallway.
One of his players.
Who's this guy? Barbara Streisand? I mean, what the hell?
I don't know. I don't know if that was. I have to ask Lindo next time I ever see him. But he might have said that story, and I was in the crowd or in the general vicinity and heard that.
What a weirdo.
Yeah, that was a story about Frank Tallarico, who owns the Ocean Manor Hotel in the Casa Calabria, a bunch of places. He was telling us a story about how Barbara Streisand was staying at the hotel, and she was in this luxury suite, and she instructed the concierge or whatever to make sure nobody ever looked her in the eye from the service staff. It's like, oh, okay, lady.
Yeah, no
Where would you like your bags?
I can't tell the room number. I'm not allowed to look up. Yeah.
Crazy stuff, yeah. I mean, Saban was like that. So I can't root for him, John. I'm sorry. I just, no matter what, I don't despise Jim Harbaugh like a lot of people do. I don't know. He's he's idiosyncratic. There's some question,
Yeah.
you could ask who was the better coach in the Harbaugh family. It might have even been, I don't know, wasn't the old man a coach too?
Jack, yeah.
Yeah. But John Harbaugh is no slouch. If you look at the way they slapped around the Miami Dolphins, they figured something out. Who's that tight end? Is it Likely, the guy that made the one-handed catch?
Yes, Likely. Yeah,
that guy. I mean, and he came in. Didn't they have a monster tight end that went down?
Yes,
Andrews.
Yeah. So this guy's great, though. I've watched him a few times now.
Coastal Carolina, baby.
Wow.
He's taken the opportunity and run with it.
Yeah, no, he's been impressive. And then that was a 4th down play, wasn't it? When he makes
4th and 7,
had the coverage and he fucking fell down. He fell down. The guy catches it one hand and goes like 40 yards for a touchdown.
Unbelievable. Yeah, no, that was they made some great plays. They make some circus plays. The Ravens.
Well, and they were attacking the crap out of Duke Riley. I didn't know who hit. I've never heard of Hill. Hill had the game of his goddamn life because they were going right after Riley. It was
they were isolating him in coverage, and they used a little, kind of wheel route with a pick to it. And they got him. They called it once, but they went right back to it in the same series for a touchdown.
Well, and the way they diced up San Francisco the week before, I mean, you have to think that coming into the playoffs, this is going to be a bold statement on my part. Who has more momentum going than the Baltimore Ravens, John Congemi?
Right. And what was good for the Ravens, they faced the same stylistic offense 2 weeks in a row and did the same thing to both offenses, with Shanahan and McDaniel coming from, the same kind of background, using the same type of motions, formations. They hit him in the mouth, and they didn't give him a whole lot of room to breathe.
And two really good defenses that usually Lamar Jackson has to start relying on his legs because they have Zay Flowers now, because they have more than just Mark Andrews, because they have the run game that doesn't rely on Lamar Jackson. He was in the pocket most of that game and just picking both the Niners and the Dolphins are top 10 defenses.
Yeah.
He picked them apart. It was a freaking joke.
And he's standing in there posing for pictures.
Yeah, he had all day. They were wide open. It was like, oh, Jesus.
A lot of times too, guys, when he escapes, he's escaping the throw now. It's not just tuck it and run. Now he's when he does decide to run, he's probably the fastest guy on the field, or at least the quickest. But now he's looking to advance the ball down the field, which means you have to stay in coverage.
Yep.
And that just gives him more room to play with when he decides to run.
All right, so let's talk about Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill. Back open, full operation underway.
Yes.
Mile marker 104, just in time for the season, which is kicking into more than full gear right now. And I would imagine some of those Buffalonians might want to be down here for the weekend here, and they're looking for a place to stay. Yeah, that'd be, it'd be tolerable, I guess. So, although not favorable for the Dolphin fans, you'd hate to see a fight break out in the pool. But the food there and the atmosphere is so great, and nobody could be in a fighting mood when they're at Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill.
That's right. You'd be fighting over the food and the drinks and the first-class service. That's for sure. And with the playoffs approaching, and you got the national championship game on Monday, and it's just a great time to saunter on down to the Upper Keys and Key Largo and visit my family and friends down at Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill. They do a great job there, and they're up and going again. So I'm sure that the weekends are kind of busy, but always room to get a seat at the Tiki Bar and put your feet up and just relax in the Keys.
How about Jimmy too, man? He really got off on that whole thing with the Ring of Honor.
I missed. What did he say at the end?
He paused in dramatic fashion. He delivered the "How about them Cowboys?"
Okay, gotcha.
And that played to raucous cheers and laughter.
Well, and Evan Smith and Irvin loved it.
And they were doing it too. They were mouthing the words.
Saying that.
It was classic. I mean, it was epic, Jimmy, man. I mean, and if you were gonna go and reenact that "How about them Cowboys" thing that he did in the locker room, this was the perfect way to do it as he was going into the Ring of Honor there. And, it was always interesting. People will take shots at, the whole thing with Jerry Jones. I mean, look what happened. It turned into a disaster for the most part for him ever since he pulled the plug on Jimmy.
Yep.
I mean, went through a series of puppeteer coaches, which you might think Mike McCarthy's one of them. I don't know. I mean, Mike McCarthy doesn't really, make you think, wow, there's a second coming of Vince on game days. he barely scrapes by in a lot of games. What you think is just a cachet of talent that most coaches could easily carve out. Some type of run at the championship that seemed legitimate. But we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, it was nice to see Jimmy get in there. It really was. And the way that he received it was tremendous. I mean, you couldn't have staged it any better. It's kind of like the atmosphere with Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill. That's mile marker 104, the Overseas Highway in Key Largo. I will come back and talk for a bit about the college playoff game. It's all set. Lubie's Washington team going against the dreaded Michigan Wolverines, who, I don't know, John. I mean, do you have any eligibility left? That they could use you at cornerback over this McCarthy kid, the way he was throwing the ball.
Well, Jim Harbaugh said he's the best to ever play at Michigan.
I love it. I'm like, what the fuck?
Wow. I mean, that's saying a lot.
Yeah.
So, although, I mean, in general, with the exception of Brady, who wasn't highly regarded at Michigan, I don't know. What kind of teams was Brady quarterbacking at Michigan?
I think they had good teams. Was it? I think I remember him playing in the Orange Bowl, and they had a really good team. Yeah.
All right. So he was good there, but they just overlooked him in the draft. All of these pundits. Yeah. He didn't look like much at the combine. I always love when they dig up that thing of the 40-yard dash, and Brady's running, and I mean, he makes Rich Eisen look good in that 40-yard dash. All right, we're going to come back with more in a moment. It's John Congemi's Pigskin Playbook, brought to you by Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill. That's Mike Lubie Lubitz. I'm Jeff DeForest. Back in a moment. Now that.
The time.
It's 8:49.
Folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously. Friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs, unmatched. Steaks, hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
Dolphins with John Congemi, and that's brought to you by Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill in the Keys, and we're looking very much forward to doing some broadcasts there. I think we're going to head down there like once a month during the football season. I have to ask you this, and feel free to, not necessarily spill the beans from a personal standpoint to your good friend Dan Marino. Does he experience, or did he ever experience, nightmares about handing the ball off to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar that one year when Jimmy insisted on running the ball on every play? And it was always, the announcer, I think it was Ron St. John, was a stadium announcer back then, and you could hear him say, hand off to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, gain of 1, 2nd and 9. Hand off to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, gain of 1, 3rd and 8. Did he ever talk about that?
No, he's never really talked about that, Defo. But you're right. I think they did have that on loop at whatever the stadium was called at that time.
It was 1 yard every time. And it was a generous 1 yard they were giving him statistically.
Enjoy your trip to work with lots of laughs thanks to Defo and Lubie. Now on the Defo Show.
Folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question.
Went a little haywire there. Always good to have Tony drop in for Texas Roadhouse Restaurants, fine establishments all across the country. And the regional manager that we deal with, he owns a bunch of these places. He's a great guy named Ed Garcia, a huge Michigan fan. He went to the game at the Rose Bowl. So we had the contrast in styles there. We'll get your synopsis here on the two games. Contrast in styles. You had the old school, rock'em sock'em robots battle in the trenches there. And Harbaugh actually said that before the game. He said, hey, whoever wins the battle up front wins the ball game. And eventually that turned out to be Michigan. as they run the ball 2 times in overtime. I mean, when do you see that where a guy just kind of dances his way into the end zone in an overtime period, the first one, and goes in for a touchdown? But it seemed like Alabama had seized control of that ball game, and was on its way to a victory, which everybody would have been despondent about all week long. It would have been ugly to think of Nick winning and stealing a national championship. And that was a real defensive battle, hard hitting game. And then the other game was more like the old AFL versus NFL, where they're chucking the rock around there, and you're seeing some big plays. So what did you see? I mean, what was your thought about the Michigan-Alabama game?
I thought it was a great game. It was fun to watch in the contrast in styles. I think the over-under in the Michigan-Alabama game was around 37.5 maybe.
Yeah.
And the other one was like, I don't know, 62 or something crazy. So you knew that it was going to be a lot of fireworks in the second game. But I thought the Michigan-Alabama game was a great game in terms of back and forth. And once Alabama, got the touchdown lead, was Michigan going to be able to, sustain possession and get it down and get it into the end zone to tie it up? And it came down to a couple of really crazy plays with a halfback throwing back to the quarterback, and the quarterback, somehow catches it and gets it downfield, not only for a completion, but a 20-yard gain.
Yeah.
And then you get a 4th down call in your own territory where Alabama busts the coverage and lets the running back go, 30, 40 yards down the sidelines, which was an easy conversion. So you kind of felt like, wow, Michigan's going to tie this up and they're going to have momentum getting into, overtime. And they did.
Yeah.
They scored, as you said, 2 plays later, you bring your defense out, who's been, putting pressure on Milroe all game long. They have 6 sacks maybe in the game.
Yes.
And it was, a 4th down call, which you had to kind of contemplate 2 or 3 times because of timeouts by each team. And I just don't believe that was the only alternative on the play call was the quarterback draw, because it almost looked like the snap was so low. I think the quarterback kind of panicked and just went into the line of scrimmage. Whereas
he ran right into the pile. Like I don't know. Have you ever done that? Where there's a pile of like 20 guys right in front of you.
Right? The snap is botched. You're thinking, oh my gosh, I somehow has to get this into the end zone, and you run straight ahead looking for a crease, and you run into your own player who was stuffed, in the backfield.
That was some bad decision.
I thought there was going to be an alternative with the guy in motion where you throw it out to him, because you had 2 guys blocking 2, and the motion guy, the defender kind of moving with the motion guy, and now you're one-on-one in space with a guy with speed. So I thought that was going to be plan A, and plan B was if that you didn't like that, then you were going to scramble towards it and run, kind of a quarterback draw. But yeah, it was a great finish, and Michigan finds a way to win. And now they have to go up against an explosive offense in Washington that seems like they can run it, they can throw it. They've got an elusive quarterback who does not worry about taking chances down the field. So you have more of a contrast in styles of, Michigan's going to possess the football, want to use their ground game, want to be able to move the pocket with the quarterback and kind of get him involved a little bit in the running game, whereas wide open Washington's going to air it out. And I don't know what contrast in style is going to win out. I would give the advantage to Michigan up front. I don't know, what is it, a touchdown game?
No, I think it's 4 and a hook was the opener.
4 and a hook now?
I'm not sure if it's still there.
So,
but it's probably around there.
Yeah, Michigan's going to probably win the battle at the line of scrimmage again, and can Penix and his explosive offense make enough plays to, stay in the football game?
I'm going to say yes.
Yeah, I think they beat the shit out of it.
I'm thinking everybody was so focused on the Michigan-Alabama game because of the sort of scumbag nature underlying themes that were associated with, the screwing of the college football playoff committee, Florida State, and then, of course, the dual suspensions of the Michigan coach for a variety of different things. Although I like McCarthy pointed the finger right at Ohio State and said, you know what, you want to talk about low-life scum? That's the Buckeyes. So when he was saying about the sign stealing scandal,
right?
That I still don't see where that is such a serious thing. That I mean, look, it's going to happen, right?
I don't mind in game. I mean, you're looking at different things to pick up when you're on the sidelines. Who could figure it out?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't figure it out.
Where you cross the line is going in disguise to another stadium and standing on the sidelines. That's where you kind of like, okay, I don't know about that.
Yeah, disguised as an assistant coach, so you just happen to receive all of their communications from the booth to the sideline. Yeah, I guess that could be seen as somewhat unscrupulous. All right, so you think Michigan prevails in this ball game, or
no?
Washington's defense didn't look as inept as they did earlier in the season in this last contest they had against Texas.
I think Washington's twitchier, if that's a phrase. They have more quick speed.
Yeah,
and they're kind of more wiry than Michigan. Where Michigan, if Michigan locks onto these guys, I don't know if Washington can stop them on the ground.
Yeah.
But the problem is you might have a 10-play, 12-play, 75-yard drive that takes up 6 minutes off the clock. And if Washington is good that night, they're going to go 3 plays, 5 plays, 75 yards in 2 minutes off the clock. But if they're 3 and out, that's where you have some discrepancy. So I picking a team, I don't know. I probably pick Michigan just because I think they're a better, well-rounded team. And I don't think they have to depend on explosive plays to win, where I think Washington will.
Yeah. Very impressed with their coach, Kalen DeBoer.
Yeah.
Seemed like the epitome of cool, man, like a real down-to-earth guy. Everybody seemed very, very relatable among the coaches in the Final Four, with the exception of one, and that would be Nick Saban. Anyway, hey, John, always a pleasure, my friend. Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill. You guys get down there. I mean, we've been enjoying some great weather, although I haven't been able to get out there and partake in all of the glory that we look forward to every year down here when we get temperatures like this and conditions like this. So great time to get down to Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill. Enjoy all of the scenery and the vibe that you get only in the Keys. I mean, as soon as you get off that little stretch there, right?
Yeah.
Where you
right
roll
over the bridge in
prison
Key
or whatever
Largo,
that is.
man.
Yeah. And
it's
then
right
boom.
there.
What was it? Jewfish Creek at one point?
Yeah.
You cross that little creek and then bingo, the world changes. It's great, man. That is some body of water. It's like the Red Sea. It's great. Separates a whole different vibe from what you get here in Dade and Broward County. All right, John, always a pleasure, my friend. You have a great week, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Sounds good, guys. Hope you feel better.
Yeah. It's a rough outing for both of us. That's for sure. You need feet, to be able to walk around, Lubie. Have you noticed that?
Yes, feet help, yes.
Oh, my God. All right, we'll find out a little bit more about that later on this afternoon. Rheumatologist, Lubie. That's where I'm headed. The rheumatologist.
Oh, there you go.
That sounds like a battery of tests, doesn't it, that come to no conclusion? Well, we don't really know what's bothering you, but try this cream. We'll see. All right, we'll deal with that. Tony Bruno Sports Network, the radio show gets underway at 10 o'clock. Download the app, Tony Bruno Sports Network. Download the app. You can take it with you all over the place. And we're on from 10 to 12. Today, our good friend from Radio Row's Past, Jerry Kramer, is scheduled to join us here on the show. And Jeff Rimmer, we're going to talk some pucks with Jeff Rimmer. And Len Elmore, very distinguished. I mean, you talk about a basketball guy that made a lot. A Harvard Law graduate, Len Elmore. Did you know that, Lubie? Now a professor at Columbia University.
Yeah.
Teaching a bunch of courses, on a doctoral type of degree. All right, so we'll see you later on a variety of platforms as we leave you know that.
The time.
It's 9:01.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my soul.